Good afternoon, or good evening, or good morning. It just depends on where you're watching us from. My name is Reverend Matthew Wambua, and this is Matthew's Coffee Bar. It's that time of the week, that time of the evening, when I get to hang out with my buddies and we have some serious conversation. I want to welcome all of you that are watching us, wherever you're watching us. We are live on Deliverance Church Durham Facebook Live. We are live on www.dcdurham.org. We are live on YouTube. Karibuni sana. It's an exciting evening when we get to chill out and just delve into some serious issues that we are facing and combating during this COVID-19 season. I want indeed already to celebrate my MP that I vote for. I can see he's watching, George Theuri. God bless you. And of course, the others like Waithera Wanyama and the rest, Kevin Masinde, keep watching. We are so glad that you could join us. Well, on the panel tonight, I am telling you, the gang is hot and on fire. And I truly do hope that the subjects that I have for them, they are ready to roll. I've got one Joseph Odima all the way from East London in the UK. He is waving. His man is amazing. He's driving and talking. It tells you where he comes from. All right, join us too. Is yours truly, my friend Gitao Gakuo, is famously known as Tiggs from Oxford. Again, from a Queensland, is in the house. Gitao, please say jumbo. And of course, joining us today, another one of my very controversial friends, I must say. This one is called David Ewagata, famous for any kind of language. Man, he can talk Pidgin English, he can talk Sheng, and sometimes I get lost in the middle. But he's here with us today. Hopefully, he will talk a language you can understand. And of course, yours truly, Richard Jogo Kedenye, the one and only. I hope you're following him on Facebook. Man is always throwing controversy everywhere he goes. And then the man with the gadgets and the heavy words, all the way from UK. I did not say United Kingdom. I said United Kisum. He's in the house today as well, in the person of Kenneth Odwor. Absolutely amazing to have you on board. And everyone else out there, please start a watch party. It's going to be smoking today because we've got some amazing things to talk about. And remember, this is Matthew's Coffee Bar, where we get to just chill out, have coffee, talk like friends. Assuming in some form of Java, or if you are in the UK, I think it will be Starbucks, if I'm not wrong. And one of those where we just have coffee and talk and have a conversation. And more so as men of God, it's not just noise and talk that we are having. At the end of the day, we sharpen one another. And for those of you that are watching us, of course, we get to involve you so that you can go ahead and get blessed, get strengthened, get encouraged, get refreshed. Man, we are living in tough times. If some of you have been chilling out in the house all day long, I'm sure this sort of conversation is going to be a blessing for you. Karibuni sana. Awesome. Good to have you on board. I want to celebrate the panel. There's still others that are going to be hopefully joining us as we move forward. But I want to start with Gitao, because Gitao, you are on the left of my screen. And therefore, you happen to fall into the first category. Please update us as what is going on, of course, in the UK. You're just having a conversation before we went live about the fact that a couple of things are getting opened. I don't know, shops and so on. Let's get to know where you guys are at, in terms of combating COVID-19.
Well, thank you, Matthew. Good evening, everybody. So the UK, from Monday, the 15th of June, all shops will open. And they will obviously be practicing some sort of physical distancing, whether it's allowing a minimum number of people in the shops or having clear routes of entry and exit, one form or another, or some sort of periodic cleaning and cleansing of open spaces in shops. But the good news for most of shops and businesses is that they are now going to be, the lockdown will be lifted for them. And I would say, I don't know what Odima would say. To me, it feels, with the exception of schools and universities, Technically, everywhere else seems to be opening. People have gone back to work, and some people are working from home. But it's now up to your employer to decide whether you work from home or you come into the office. So the government now has given instructions to organizations to make sure there's physical distancing, and then leaving it to companies and organizations to decide how that is going to work. So for most companies, the hubs will be much different from what they were used to. So there will be a space. You will not have sort of all your members of staff coming into a hub. People will be spaced out, and others will have to work from home. But to me, technically, lockdown is on its way out. Right. I think the last sector that is remaining is the education sector. And that has got its own challenges because, so universities, if you talk of a lecture room, you can, normally they take up to 100, 150 people in a room. So the question is, if you do physical distancing, where do the rest of the people go? And most universities, I think, are discussing, there's a serious possibility that from September, they will start teaching just online, no physical lessons. But that's different now for secondary and primary schools, because if you physically isolate, sort of distance people, where are the children going to go to? A class that is taking 30, 40 people can only take maybe 10, 15. Where do the rest go?
Yeah.
So those are the challenges that the education sector is still facing. But I would imagine, the other, sorry to sort of take long, the other sort of problematic areas in aviation. So whereas people are now allowed to fly, the regulation is if you fly in, you self-isolate for 2 weeks. So again, that is sort of causing a problem because, so say for example, any of you is coming to the UK for a mission, you'd have to allocate 2 weeks before you start going for your mission to be somewhere where you won't leave that room, and the government can check whether you are adhering to that. So I think those are the two sectors, as far as I know, that are struggling with now the easing of the lockdown sort of procedures or sanctions. So the education sector and the travel sector. All right.
How about the churches? You guys are allowed back to church?
So the churches, again from Monday, most churches will be allowed to open only for individual prayer. So if you want to come and pray in a church sanctuary, churches are being allowed to open. But churches are still not allowed to open for services. But that is going to change. I would think by July, we'll probably have a clear guidance as to how that will happen. But my feeling is, even if they allow churches to happen, it will not be as normal. I think they will either put a limit on the numbers of people that can gather together in one sitting.
Right.
And even practical things like singing. So because singing involves, you having to sing, a group of people singing, and there's an argument that saying in the course of singing, you can be somebody who's got symptoms that affect others in the course of singing. So there's lots of discussions going on, but I would imagine churches probably by July, end of July, would be open.
Okay, that's really great. Odiba, do you have anything to add on to that? You guys are in the same whatever. Is there anything that you would like to discuss? Yeah.
Generally, Pastor Litawa said it all. Can you hear me?
Yes, loud and clear.
Yeah, very good. Yes, I think Pastor said it all. To be honest with you, yes, that is what is happening at the moment. Even now, because I was rushing to get home, and I'm just stuck on the motorway. I think this maybe a bad accident on the A12, and it's pretty heavy. But the cars have come back to the roads in the United Kingdom. You find that a lot of offices are opening up, and by next week, Monday, things like almost 90% of the United Kingdom is coming back into business, knowing that this economy is a 24-hour economy, and the government has used a lot, millions and millions of pounds in trying to bail out the system and the economy. And people that were furloughed were being paid
Yes.
by the government, and then a certain percentage by the companies. And so they want to make sure that towards the end of June, they reverse the whole thing, that they put it back to the companies, and the government can only come up, I think it should be about 20% or 40%, and then the 60% will be taken care of by the companies. So that is what is taking place now.
Right.
But the other thing is, I would say, is that they're putting in order. You know what I'm saying? Like the self-distancing, the PPEs, in place, sanitization of hands, and making sure that everything is in order.
All right.
Yep.
Awesome.
I forgot to mention, Matthew, as well, that the rule now is if you're going on public transport, whether aeroplane, bus, or the trains, you have to have a mask on your face.
Yeah.
Otherwise, you will not be allowed on the bus or on the train.
Okay. Well, at least I celebrate the fact that I think football is coming back somehow. Glory to God.
Yes, it's coming back, man. I think Tottenham.
I mean, seriously, something we can look forward to watching, man.
Yeah. I know.
Back home here, tuliambiwa 30 tena.
Oh, wow. I know.
So,
another
30 days to be indoors. However, I don't know, David, what you think, because seriously speaking, this curfew thing, is it even a curfew? I mean, 9 to 4 in the morning. I just drove Hap Kasuku and right opposite the police station. And guys, it's around 7 o'clock. Jamaa na vinjari pale na chapa machupa zao bila swasi man.
I'm a bit confused in this country of ours. Were the bars closed or were they opened?
I don't know. It looks like they were just allowed. They're operating. I don't know what you guys have seen. I don't know what Richie and Ken have seen, but I've seen them working.
Yeah, because I thought they were all closed at some point, but it looks like they were open, and then there's conversations about them, not being fully open, or I don't know what the story is. But I say in East Africa, we have 3 kinds of countries. We have countries that locked down.
Yeah.
All right? We have countries that lied they locked down.
Yes.
And then we have the one country that said we have not locked down.
Yes.
The only countries that have done something are the only countries that have done something are the first 2, the ones that have locked down fully. That is Uganda and Rwanda.
Yes.
I think we pretended we locked down to get the money. And it has worked. I think we have received a lot of money. So then there was a bit of excitement. There was a 7.8 billion kind of getting stuck. So we added 30 days and 7.8 came in.
Yes.
So I'm just hoping nobody else. Please talk to the UK government, talk to USA, talk to these guys. Tell them not to send any more money. We'll be in this lockdown for the next 1 year. It looks like whenever there's money coming, there's a lockdown waiting. So we need to agree that we don't send money so that we can open up our country. Because so far we've been lying here. We locked down. We didn't lock down anything. We stopped something.
Pastor, I'm sorry for coming in. Thank you so much, brother, for saying that. Pastor Matthew, I'm going to be honest. Sorry, correct me with this. Is there COVID-19 in Kenya? Because Getao can bear me witness. We have lost 40,000 plus people in the United Kingdom as we speak. If you talk about COVID-19, my friends, because what is happening there in Kenya, sorry for saying this, is a money-making venture. This is a cash cow. Why they are closing the economy right now, that another 30 more days, I don't understand.
Yes.
That bit baffles me. I'll leave it there. I'll leave it there. Yeah.
We have COVID-19.
Yes.
But inacheza na finances. It is playing around.
It's
also, we've discovered it's also avoiding. It doesn't like policemen. Either the uniform or the coat of arms, but there's something about security forces. They don't get affected.
That's true. That's very true.
And then I think also riots. They don't like riots because when riots happen in the US, there has been no spike.
Yeah.
So trying to investigate this COVID, how is it playing?
Yeah.
There's money, there's police uniform, there's riots, And then also, if you're a member of parliament, those big guys, then they can have meetings. They don't catch it. So we are still trying to understand the kind of COVID we have and the kind of COVID we want. It looks like
that's what I was saying. Is they have COVID-19 in Kenya, looking at those politicians gathering down in Kajiado.
Joseph Odima, leave alone that. Our neighbor, just a few miles down the road in Tanzania, has declared Tanzania COVID-19 free. I mean, no mask, nothing, and we have nobody is dying there. We've not been told anybody is dying there. I mean, Richie, seriously speaking, it doesn't make sense. It doesn't make sense, Richie.
I don't know. Maybe time will tell what's really happening with Tanzania. But I think they've just decided not to report. I think about a month ago, after he tested pies and goats, he decided that he didn't want to test human beings. Decided to, just say this thing. I think he has decided, which is very unfortunate. If this thing is there, let's kill whoever it will kill, and nobody should report it. That's a problem of authoritarian rule. I don't know if it will eventually help Tanzania. I don't think so, but this is interesting. I think he's just decided, and we don't have people that can report like Brazil. Brazil, people who can report, and I think the guy in Brazil was trying to take that route, but in Tanzania, it's a bit of an oppressive regime that, you cannot easily report what's happening, so people may die. And I guess a lot of people will die. But what will happen is that eventually people will develop herd immunity after lots of people have been sacrificed. Probably more than the numbers we are seeing in Europe. I don't know. That's my take. I think.
And that's really sad to imagine. I got a friend that just told me, because the mother comes from Tanzania, and she told me that look, guys, when COVID-19 struck, they ran away into the rural areas and places to hide there, away from the city. I have a friend of mine, Becky knows, who Rich, you know him, who literally closed his church because then the numbers were going down by 50 every Sunday. So he decided, instead, in an hired premise, instead of keeping this thing, why don't I just shut down? And now he probably just does stuff on Facebook and that's it. But the rest of the week he goes into the bush, does his stuff, comes back. It's an interesting scenario. I've tried to dig in and just figure out what is really going on. I don't know. Maybe time will tell, like you're saying, Richard, as move forward. Guys, let me just jump over. I was getting guys warmed up. Let me just jump over to another discussion. I don't know anybody watched news today. I mean, the police brutality here is come again to the fore. A guy actually picks his girl. She's said to have actually stolen something. I don't know what it is. Ties her hands, drags her with a border on the ground for kilometers. She's breaking her leg. Her legs are broken, hands are bruised. I mean, I've just seen that on TV. It's on the news, in the 7 o'clock news bulletin, and we are not saying anything. And yet, you guys in the UK, you're making noise because of some guy in the US who was murdered by a policeman. Kind of just leaves me lost. Anyways, what's happening? What happened before I jump over to Ken? Because I know Ken can again begin to see steam coming out of his forehead. He's getting ready to. I've got my fire extinguisher Ken here. What's the scenario? Well, one thing I want us to just kind of look at, because that's just that entire scenario. We were having a conversation with Becky and Richard around the same. But it seems like it is a very defining moment. I don't know whether it's for Africa, I don't know whether it's for the black man, but I don't know what it is. But just what's happening in Europe compared to what happens here, you end up kind of just getting lost. I just saw that on TV, And I don't see Kenyans lifting up placards. You know, it's an interesting get out. You guys stopped rioting because of George Floyd?
Well, I think the U.S., the riots were more in the U.S. We had a day or two of riots here. And that's because there's close affinity between the US and the UK, sort of similar patterns in terms of migration. So whatever is bound to happen there, we've got similar trends here. I mean, we had one of the worst riots, I think 2011 or 2011, where 2013, I think, where there was a person who was killed by the police, and that led to massive riots in London. And I've got a very sort of close friend, a senior minister, a church minister in London, who spoke out then, and he's actually one of the few black pastors who have spoken out quite passionately about the issue. And I think the white population and the white majority of white, and I can talk about church because that's where maybe it's the most relevant. I think majority of white people do not understand the pressure that black people face when we talk about racism and inequality. That is similar in some way, and pardon me if I use this example. The similarity could be the way a child brought up in Karen and a child brought up in Kawangware. The experiences that a Kawangware boy faces, you know, is the Karen kid would have no understanding of what this Kawangware boy goes through. And it is unfortunate that in our world today, that people have got negative experiences, subjected to horrific abuse simply because of who they are, the color of their skin, and their background. And my prayer is that we can dismantle this thing, racism, tribalism, nepotism, in whatever manner that it occurs. There is no reason, absolutely, why I should be judged by the color of my skin. There's no way I should be judged by the background and where I've come from. You know, it's funny sometimes we have been abused when you meet some racist people and they tell you, go back to where you came from. And sometimes I just tell them, well, I live in Oxford, so I'm going to go back home. But you can see behind it, what they're really trying to tell you is you don't belong here. And what has come out as well in the UK, what people are furious about in the UK is all these statues of people who in history, they have been known to be slave traders who have benefited hugely from slave trade. And yet they are being presented as heroes, as legends in British history. And there's the pressure that is being put on is, first of all, let's remove these statues from the public. But also, secondly, a lot of British people are not taught the history we are taught in schools. You need to understand that. They never learn about the colonial history. They never learn about the slavery that their forefathers, the horrific abuse that their forefathers exerted and inflicted on a big part of the world population.
So what do they teach? Do they teach that we just outsourced leadership to them for a number of years?
They talk about the thing the thing they are proud of talking. And it's a good question, David, because even my own kids have gone through this education system here. We have to teach them our history because they are not getting it from the schools. They are not being taught that history. So the history that they are taught is they're told about how Britain led the campaign against abolition of slavery, William Wilberforce. But they are not sure, they are not given the history of the colonial era, the abuses that went to the horrific. I mean, if all of us have read and learned the history of Mau Mau, these people do not.
I have no idea.
The history they are taught with the colonials that the white person helped the Africans to be more civilized, education, Christianity. That is what
really
put over and above the horrific tortures that went through. And that's why, in some sense, I know that we may disagree with the violent aspect of the protests that have been going on. But I strong-heartedly, I really side with the pressure to make sure that history is taught accurately and properly. I think there's a saying that says, if it's the lion that is always writing the story, you know, the hunted you'll never get to see the story from the hunted's point of view, because it's always the lion writing the story.
To that. Right. Ken, let's bring you on now. Ken, what's your take? Do you think this entire riot things all over the place in the UK, in the US, I mean, in other places, is going to really have any lasting impact on as far as this issue of racism really is concerned? You guys think that there's going to be any lasting impact, a serious positive change? You know, Ken?
Yeah, thank you very much, Reverend Matthew, for again giving me an opportunity to be part and parcel of this coffee bar, together with my learned friends that are here. If it's in the US, then I think there's going to be a great change and an impact based on we seeing the people who are rioting or demonstrating currently. It is not only the black people that are doing so, but it's a combination of both the black people and the white people. And I think people are beginning to discover that lives matter, whether black, whether white, chocolate, or Hispanic, or whichever race. Those lives do matter. And again, they're doing so because they are sure that their systems are working. It's a country that has been founded on law and order. And so therefore, people know their rights. Unlike Kenya, whereby we are afraid of speaking out currently because a majority of us don't know their rights. Not only that, but a majority of us also, especially the middle class, don't have money to even be able to challenge anybody in court, because those who have money can be able to buy justice, and so therefore justice will not be served even to any other person who is of a lower class. I've been really praying and asking God, what is this pandemic? What is this COVID-19? What is really happening? Because I'm wondering, America has not recorded any death, leave alone a death. They've not recorded, infections since the riot began. And so I'm wondering, why is it like right now in Kenya, the numbers are escalating over and over again? You keep on wondering and asking yourself, is it the testing kits? Because I had Lancet, yesterday was actually questioning the authenticity of the test kits that were given to us. And I hear they came from China, and they were given to us free of charge. So we are wondering, is it the test kits that have been brought that have a problem, or what is going on? So for me, it's still a challenge. I'm still praying and asking God what is happening, because I'm wondering what is really happening. Because there are lots and lots of voices that for me are blocking, the frequency of God. There's just a lot that is happening. But my prayer by the end of it all is that we shall be able to learn from whatever is happening, that a virus can shut the entire world. And then it now challenges us as believers, to take the center stage and now begin to do things differently and take the necessary precautions and make sure that by the end of it all, we become above board. That, whatever happens, we'll be able to sort out this thing in a better way. It is unfortunate that people are dying in Kenya and there's nothing much that can be done. Yeah, we are just having news of people dying. If someone can be able to record, someone being pulled by a motorcycle, and I don't even hear the Minister for Interior talking about it. I don't even hear, the police talking about it. It's a big challenge, because right now what we are seeing in Kenya is not even what is going on. Yeah. What we are seeing in Kenya is the Chief Justice fighting the executive, fighting the Attorney General, oh, I don't know, Wetangula has been ousted and what have you. It's not too much politics that what is supposed to be discussed
impeachment in Kirinyaga.
Yeah, you can imagine, we are now not even focusing on sorting out the current pandemic. People are just thinking about themselves, 2022, and how they're going, whatever is going to happen. I expected all those leaders to condemn with the strongest terms possible the killings that IPOA had already said, 15 are already dead. Those are the only ones that we know. What about the rest of the people? And we have no voice at all. We have no voice. I'm just hoping that this pandemic will teach Kenyans a lesson and that we'll be able to rise above board and condemn all these things. Thank you very much.
Well, thank you very much, Ken. Becky, you're awfully quiet. Let's hear your take, and then I'm going to move you guys into something else that I really want us to have a discussion around. Becky?
Hi, everyone.
Hello.
Good to see all of you. I don't know where to begin, but I just want to say sometimes when you see things happen, sometimes we keep thinking it will be a good lesson, but sometimes things happen, and once they have passed, we forget about them. And we don't even do anything about them. But if we think about the riots, like my brother Ken has said, maybe in the, let me call them the first world, maybe in the first world, something may happen, but it saddens me that many things can be happening within just around and about where we are, but we may not even be taking keen interest to know what to do and how to do it. But I would just say that one of the things that oppresses, especially Kenyans, is the fear. For example, if I haven't seen the news, but what Reverend Matthew has just said about the guy being pulled by the motorcycle, you know, if some few Kenyans decided to riot, they could just be clobbered by the police, and many of them will run away and do nothing because you fear what will come after you have done what you want to do. The fear on what is going to happen to you. Many of us can tell, for example, you just walk along the road and someone robs you. And people can see you being robbed. And you know, no one will take action on the robber that is robbing you when they are even seeing. And I'm just saying that I don't know whether it is fear or ignorance. I don't know how to put it, because if we cared about one another and not become selfish to one another, to ourselves, we will really care about life. But in most cases, there's a lot of selfishness. As long as it works for me, it doesn't matter what happens to another person. And that is why, even if you look at our leaders, it is selfishness. Look at what, like we are saying, what is happening right now. We are talking about the executive, we are talking about politics, we are talking about 2022, and yet there is a big number of people dying, there's a big number of people being infected. Who is thinking about them? The people that are talking about politics are expecting votes from the people that are seeing them, not even caring for the ones that are suffering. So selfishness, especially in our country, is of the highest order. As long as it works for me, it doesn't matter about the others. I look forward for a time whereby if something happened to me, everyone will be up in arms. Not because it has happened to them, but knowing it can happen to them tomorrow. But as long as it has not happened to them, it is happening to me. Everyone seems to be taking their own way and just leave it like that. So I'm looking forward for a time, I don't know when this will be, whereby we can look at one another and value one another and be able to do things not because of what we will get out of it, but because of who we are dealing with. Because COVID-19 is here, yes, and I listened to Ken and talking about the testing kits, and I remembered someone some people who simply said they cannot go for testing because if those things came from China, it really means they've been doctored. So going for some people are saying, you see the numbers rising. How can there be testing that causes numbers to rise like that? There should be some doctoring that has happened. So I don't know. I don't know. I don't know those who are on this panel, how many of you have been tested, but I'm just saying this to say, that.
I like that, Becky. When the kids have come, the rates have gone up.
Yes.
Yeah.
That
is the thing. There's a lot of things going about this, even the numbers going high. There's a lot of things happening. Sometimes you're on the ground and you hear people say, okay, because we still have to continue getting money for COVID-19, we've really got to show that it is serious, numbers are going up so that money continues to come and people can keep money for politics for 2022. I'm not sure about that, but there's a lot that is happening around all this. One thing I could say about us who are here is we can trust God. God has been gracious to us. God has been fighting for us, and God can fight for us even this far. Our hope is in God. Our trust is in God. There are many things that we could wish our government should do. There are many things we could wish that so-and-so would come in and just change the whole scenario. But sometimes it doesn't come out the way we are looking out. But listen, one thing I love God for is He's not a respecter of persons. Once we believe in Him and trust in Him, He will come to our rescue. And we pray that justice will prevail, because my brother Odima said it last week, that if people are eating COVID money, they're inviting a curse to themselves. And I keep just saying one thing, that it is important to care for one another, care for what is happening, and do the right thing when the right thing needs to be done. Otherwise, God is on our side. Maybe riots may not really solve the problem, but God has a way of coming in and intervening in making it come to pass. That would be my take. Otherwise, some of the things that just happen around us, they make you not feel very happy about what is happening, and sometimes you don't know how to go about it. But as a believer, I've chosen to believe and trust God.
I hear you. I mean, guys, honestly speaking, if you see that video, it's horrific. To be honest, it's really horrific. That girl, that woman, being dragged for kilometers, I'm told, getting her leg broken, literally. In fact, her clothes torn off until she's naked. I mean, George Floyd, yes, he lost his life in police brutality. But this, I mean, it shouldn't happen in civilized society. To be honest, I mean, it's really. I pray that God will help us really figure out this police thing. And you know what? I do know that there are actually some good policemen are doing some great work out there. There's just a bit of this you want to. And then, of course, when his boss is questioned, they say, you know what, we're going to do an investigation investigation, and someone is being dragged on national television. I mean, what investigation do you need to do? Fire the guy, then we can be talking later on. Anyways, that's the situation here. And that's what we see. David seems to really have inside information about some of these things. Coming down to you, David, in a short while. Yes, go, David.
I'm just laughing because you say things like this should not happen in a civilized world. I wonder if we are civilized in the first place. Maybe some of these videos are the ones that make the Britons feel they came to help us develop and become civilized human beings.
Be careful. Odima is listening very carefully.
And this is the thing. I think I always tell people the Kenyan context has formed for the politician the classic place for them to exercise whatever they want to exercise. We are divided enough. We have the memory of an inchworm. we don't remember what happened 2 minutes ago. And then we just don't understand. I cry for the fact that we don't understand what it means to stand up for anything at all. We don't stand up for anything. If somebody came and clobbered our children in our house, we'd probably stand back and say, anyway, neza za wengine. Unfortunately. All right?
That's a sad place to be.
We've created, and the politicians have built this thing over the years. I kid you not, a politician who is hungry for a portion of land where they can do whatever they want to do without being disturbed would want to be a politician in Kenya. Because we've perfected the art. We've perfected the art to the point that they know that they can be able to determine what our conversations are morning to morning. They let in COVID for a few weeks, and COVID-19 kind of took reins for a few days, and then they just woke up and overnight listen to any conversation, in any matatu, in any business conversation, in any political conversation, in any medical conversation. The conversations have gone back to politicians and what is happening in Jubilee, what is happening in NAC, what is happening in ODM. Those are the things that have taken us. And so they know we will go back to those conversations. I'll say this, 4 things that I think are very important for us to do. 1, we need to wake up and begin to be selfless. I don't know what that will take. As ministers, I think we need to be at the forefront of this. We need to be able to stand up and speak as shepherds of a sheep of whom we will give an account. That will mean it will be a risk to our lives, it will be a risk to our families, but somebody has to step out because the politicians know that there is no minister of the gospel right now that will stand out and say, this is absolutely unacceptable. We will sit in our quiet quarters and then keep quiet. 2, they've mastered the art of making us passive. And so that is why you see the story of a thug is stealing, what Pastor Becky is talking about. A thug is robbing somebody. The other day there was a clip actually, and it's still online, of this guy who came and just started yanking at the handbag of this lady. And there is a big guy standing right next to him watching all this happening. Because we've learned over the years that when you try to help somebody, most likely you're the one in harm's way. And this never used to be the case. We beat up thugs, my friend. Kariako hapo ziwani. Tulinyorosha waizi. We used to clobber guys. To the point of setting guys, people were set on fire. But then when the thugs got guns and the police are not coming in to help the citizenry, in fact, the other day, just on, I think, 2-3 days ago, there were thugs who were caught at Gateway Mall, just on Mombasa Road. And the Nduthi guys, after they realized they have caught these guys this time, there were 3 people, 2 guys and a lady. They beat them up. And when the police came, they actually fired in the air to rescue these guys. And I have heard the voice of one of the Nduthi guys say, Watarudi, they will be back. They will be back. And it tells you that it's not the first time that these guys have been arrested. They are taken to the police station, they bribe, and within a week, they are back in the same street. Such impunity. And so you know, if today I come and I stop this guy from stealing, what makes it impossible for them to come back and shoot me point blank in front of my friends, saying, you know, you are the one who arrested me. And so we've been pacified because of that. And because of the fear. There is no state security, there is no state support around us. And, you know, eventually now we've become resentful. And so when you become resentful, you don't want to help somebody. Somebody who is resentful is inward focused. We're just like, serikali, the police. And so we all sit back and say, you know what, let Kenya burn as long as I make my money, as long as if I can get my hand in the cookie jar. You know, there's that oil well that is called Kenyan public coffers. If we can get our hands in that coffee jar, even if it's for 2 minutes, I'll grab as much as I can and make my way home and live happily ever after. Because anyone who comes after me will be paid off and life will go on for me. And that, unfortunately, that is the classic scenario we have made straight from, and I'm not just speaking about the politician, I'm not speaking about the citizen, I'm talking about the minister of the gospel, I'm talking about the ordinary person on the ground, I'm talking about the wealthy man. Like you were saying that if you're wealthy enough, you don't have the money to be able to mitigate. But there are billionaires in this country, there are millionaires in this country who have buried their own kin because of police brutality. Where do they go after that? Keep quiet.
You keep quiet. I hear you, David. Well, so ideally, we are talking about a certain Kenyan culture or Kenyan psyche that needs to be broken, needs to be removed. If you're going to, because David just said it, and rightly so, that it's not only with police, and not only the rich, it's not only the poor, even in the church, we practice same, corruption and really all these things going on, and you wonder who is going to deliver us from this scenario and from this situation. Because I mean, right now, and Odima was making mention of this the other day, talk about money that's being donated. Even now, you know what? I actually thought at one time, Gitao, I mean, to be very, very philanthropic, I actually thought at one time I could actually write a check, even get the church to donate and tell a member, let's donate towards a COVID-19 relief fund. My friend, when I realized that simple meetings like this conversation we are having here, the tea alone, the budget would be like 2 million Kenya shillings. I said, I'm not giving anything. I mean, because you give it to these people, they just eat it. And you wonder, tea, chai. I mean, even if it is tea for I don't know how many people, 2 million Kenya chai. Na si chai ya siku kadhaa, it is one sitting. I said there are thugs in this country, man, that are just way too seasoned as thugs. I mean, to really change. I think we need to get some serious change. Odima, can see now you found yourself home.
Yeah, I've found myself home, man, at long last.
Okay, don't worry. Guitar was talking before you. I'll come back to you. Just
very quickly.
Yeah,
very quickly, Pastor. And I echo what David and Becky have said. Our problem is I don't think we are free in Africa. The only thing we've changed is the color scheme of the masters. The masters that we had prior to that, the British, the German, the Europeans have left. But instead of them, our own brothers and sisters have now become the new colonizers. So they are benefiting from the system has never changed. And I think it is frustrating for all those people, especially who have been fighting these systems. Most of them are now within government and being mentioned adversely in corrupt cases. So when Becky was talking, the word that came to me is we've been conditioned, and even what David was saying, we've been conditioned to accept violence. We've been conditioned to accept poor governance. So that's why people don't rage and fight. You know, if you teach a dog just to accept this and to function in a particular way, that's how these people have done. They've taught us to accept that don't make noise about somebody stealing money because what are you going to do? Mtadu?
Could it be Gitao? That's why you are not seeing riots about George Floyd in Africa, really. Who cares? You know, I mean, nobody's lifting a placard to say, George Floyd, you know what, Black Lives Matter. You know, but I liked what I saw. Malema in South Africa just speak the other day, and he's telling his fellow South Africans, listen, you can't keep on lifting up placards there, Black Lives Matter. While here, you practice xenophobia, you chase your own brother. You know, same color, same. I mean, you kick them back out. You can't talk about Black Lives Matter. Let's deal with this thing here. And I think that's a problem with Africa. Because seriously speaking, where in this Africa has anybody lift up their placard, Black Lives Matter?
You'll be clobbered.
Our lives, we know clearly our lives don't matter. So, and it's not because of it's not because of white people. So we know.
Unfortunate.
If we made it to the streets to go and riot against what happened in the US, my friend, there would be a lot of other Black lives that will need to be mattered for in the same vicinity that you came from. We know. The reason why we didn't leave is because we know where we are. If we were in Germany, if we were in the US, the UK, we would have come up. But we know where we are, and we know who is sitting on us. They don't carry those sticks in vain.
And actually, I like what you mentioned, David. They like the reality that now masks are not an issue anymore. Guys are out there shouting, rioting, and they're the same people that are dying by the thousands.
The other thing that I wanted to say is this. It's interesting that we are talking about this context of Africa, and Malema says this rightly in South Africa. But if you understand the story of South Africa, the black South African is considered inferior to the normal African.
Yes.
And so I took a flight with a South African lady from Cape Town to Joburg in one of my many travels. Hallelujah, Bwana asifiwe.
In fact, David, I'm wondering who is this South African lady, but anyway, you go ahead. I'll talk to Rosie later on.
Just to clarify,
shots fired.
I can't remember who it is. Many safaris.
Shots fired.
But I sit next to her, and for the first few moments in the flight, she's very quiet. She's very, very defensive. Almost, you can even tell her body language. Like, don't talk to me. And then I think when we were being served, I spoke up, and she had my accent is a bit different. Yeah. So immediately the air hostess passes. She engages me and she asks me, "Where are you from?" I'm like, "From Kenya." And we get into this conversation. We get into this conversation, and she tells me, this is point blank. She's speaking to me, and she's speaking quite loudly. I'm even getting worried because I'm trying to look around to see if there's any black South African around me. And she's saying, you know, if you want to work in South Africa, you can get a job. But for a black South African, those people are this and this. And she gives me a whole list of the way they perceive the black South African. Not knowing that the reason why the black South African is like that is because of the years of apathy, the years of not going to school, the years of not being able to do anything but drink mkomboti, riot, be killed, and go for the funeral, and after the funeral agitate again, go back on the street. And so they have never done education, they've not had work ethic, they have not developed a culture of work, a culture of socialization, and they're living in this slums where everything is cheapened for them so that ambition is no longer part of their lives. And so at the end of the day, when you look at the product of what you've made over almost 50, 60 years of ruling over these guys, you hate it. But then it's you who made them. And now for us in Kenya, for those in Zimbabwe, like a country like Zimbabwe, where they really took it up and developed very well, they developed work ethic. So when a Zimbabwean comes to South Africa, he's a different breed of an African. When a Kenyan goes to South Africa, he's a different breed of an African. Because we've tested a semblance of independence, we've learned, we've gone to school, we've never had war in our countries. And so we are different people from that guy. And so even when Malema is saying that, he knows at the background of it, it's because of what the South African black man has been exposed to, which is different from what the Zimbabwean black man has, Kenyan black man has, Ugandan black man has. And so they are fighting us off because they are saying, if you come in with your black skin and the exposure you have, these guys can feel like you are more qualified. And I think it's the same thing with the black Americans. That's why they don't like the African. Because they're saying you come here, you take jobs, you are given opportunities that we are not given, and you're not from here. So there's a lot of layers to this thing, even as we talk about it.
I hear you. Let me appreciate a couple of guys that have joined us, like Tony Owata, and Bishop Ayanda, Joshua, Lois Kimboy, Letitia Soke. Kevin Masindes is watching with my clan and getting blessed. I appreciate my friend and brother JM Devo following. Devo, God bless you. Michelle Chebet says, interesting conversations. Letitia Soke says, racism is demonic. We the black people need to address fighting among ourselves for the white people, not to treat us disproportionately. Look at the analogy of the haves and the have-not. Evident in our society, it starts with us. Henry Ishza is that what's going on in Kenya? You people make us believe that Kenya is so rotten. Well, you got to listen to what is going on down here. Nancy Wambui is watching. Joyce Smiley Kadak is watching. Robert Mutinda Muindi watching. Elias Gitonga watching. Esther Michelle, God bless you. Gilbert Marabi, Daktari, God bless you. Mungine Sue McIntosh, God bless you. David Kalanza. Lois Kamboy says, I love this woman of God, Reverend Becky. Live long. Well, she's the only girl in the park. You've got to love her. You know, you've got to love her. Zef Onditi. Kelvin Manyoike, Jomba Tsuma, Max Eko, Recha Mumbua, James Monge, Betty Imali, Milio Kumu. All these guys are watching. El Tisha is back again and says, true, at GITS, you have put it well. We have been conditioned to behave in a certain way instead of being original and innovative. All right, Pescom Kenya is watching. Henry is back saying, wow, Atichai, maji majani na sukari. Is it for the whole country costing 2 million? Please sack people, send them home. Yes, I wish I had the power. I can assure you they'll be gone yesterday. Anzuna, Sharon Korio, Nina Wamba is watching. Freddie Kinjiri is watching. God bless you guys. Yes, Fred. I'll say hi too, Fred. How you doing? I keep on listening to you, by the way. With that girl, what's her name? Otieno on your show. So get to know I listen to you as well, Fred. Albert Auki from Kisumu and Guitar Francis. Guys, let's just have Odima say one word. He's settled now. Odima, did you get your groundnuts and your coffee ready?
Yeah, I just
awesome. Okay.
I'm getting my coffee.
Just shoot out a word, and then I'm going to introduce something else here for discussion. Go ahead.
The thing that has really touched me, thank you so much, Pastor Matthew, again. As I was just driving along, and you said about the thuggery that is taking place in the country. And the lady that was just dragged by somebody and nobody has spoken.
I saw it on TV, bro.
I said this and I want to say it again. And I know that it takes two to tango. Yes, I know that the police have a case to answer in Kenya because of what they're doing. But I want to move it a little bit further. When the head is corrupt, the whole body will be corrupt. This thing starts from top, coming down. I know that always we speak about the president, but the president cannot do everything. To be honest with you, when you hear President Kenyatta, he talks about how he wants things changed, and then he has given the instruments of power to different people who ought to implement that. And I would say this, is that, the police sometimes cannot do anything because they're seeing that their superiors, who are their bosses, are sleeping on the job. So nobody holds nobody for accountability on what needs to be done. Because such a thing, to be able to hear it in Kenya, if it was here or in America, would be a different ballgame. You'll say that all the whites are fighting the blacks. But now this is us, by ourselves. Somebody is dragging a lady on the road. That person, they shouldn't be talking about investigation. What are you investigating? Amewekwa ndani, amestakiwa, na kupelekwa kotini. And then when it's taken to court, there's no bond. In fact, Pastor Matthew, my prayer is that the God will sweep, like I said it last week, God will sweep the whole system in Kenya and bring in all new leaders. You cannot teach an old dog new tricks. This morning I had the spiritual.
That's a British saying.
Yeah, this morning I had my spiritual father, Bishop Masinde, saying something that when I was in the office.
Right.
You cannot take new wine and put it in an old wine skin. Least you destroy the wine and also the skin. So what needs to be done right now ni kwamba Mungu alete neema na rehema zake na watu wote Mungu awaondoe. So that God can bring in new leaders, people that have a heart and the fear of God, people that have a conscience. Because to me right now, I know we are not politicians, we are pastors and we are men of God. And like Pastor David said, it is time. I know that, yes, people fear for their lives and what will come. But there's a price to pay. The Bible says in the book of Hebrews that we have not fought against sin until we have shed blood. It is my prayer that the man of God, I mean, everybody who is calling himself a man of God. We need to know that we are custodians of one another. We need to come together as a church and speak out. God need to raise us up and just speak out. And surely he has already raised us up. Kile tutoe ni uoga. Na tujue kwamba ni Mungu ametuchagua. I don't need to be called an MP to speak out. No. I don't need to be called a bishop to speak out. No. I'm a child of God. I'm a man. And change begins with one man. And I believe, Pastor Matthew, I don't know why the Lord really put this into your spirit. This is what needs to be done. And now I believe God will direct us again to move it to the next phase.
That's true. Absolutely. I hear you, Joseph. I'm going to interject there because I want to move out a little bit faster. I have two things I need to throw into the conversation today. Number one has everything to do with even some of the things you're saying right now, some of the things you guys are bringing to the fore. Because we've been having this conversation with the likes of Richard Chogo, David, Ken, a lot. And I do know, of course, that the government extended the lockdown, semi-lockdown by a cool 30 days, actually beyond whatever happened before, because the last time it was 21 days and then 21 days. Now it's 30. I don't know. Maybe next time it's going to be 30 or 45 days. I don't know. God forbid. Having said that, I think, and I'm talking now to the ministers, the likes of Becky, of course, Richie, Ken, those who are ministers here, I am thinking, and let's just get a bit to the biblical side of things here, that there's an opportunity for us here to begin to probably, I don't know whether it's to champion, I don't know whether it's to figure out how to begin to self-regulate in the church, because there's always been that conversation, and especially before COVID-19. The government came up with rules, and the rules were, we want to literally reign on the church because we had rogue preachers doing their thing. But you guys know that COVID-19 has literally dealt those guys a serious blow below the belt, if I may say that. And I am wondering, and I need to engage your conversation here, could it be that there's an opportunity here for bodies like the Evangelical Alliance of Kenya and other Christian bodies to, hey, bring conversation round now when we've not yet gone back again to getting these rogue preachers operating and selling water and selling oil, that we can actually be able to have a conversation that by the time we reopen, there is order, there is a way to regulate ourselves, there is a way to be able to drive a conversation, there is a way to be able to have a voice as far as the government is concerned in some of the issues that you're talking about. I think an opportunity here, and I don't think this is going to come out of the older generation. Richie, I think this is going to come out of this generation. Do you think there is an opportunity that we need to begin to have this conversation, Richard?
Although I was hoping I could comment on the issue of Black Lives Matter, but anyway, let's move on to.
You can start there. You can start there. It's fine. This is a coffee bar, so you can go back and forth. This is an issue of conversation.
It's too close to home.
No. I've fought enough fights on Facebook that I let me spare myself the agony of
all right.
conversations. But yeah, I mean, but maybe just a quick thought there. I feel that the whole conversation about race is an opportunity for us as the Black African race to have certain conversations about ourselves right here from Africa and even out there in diaspora, and because there's a lot of hope moving forward if we can be strategic in our conversations, and that we should not. My argument has been this conversation should not be taken over by white liberals who would want us to have that conversation in a particular way, but we should have a rise. The black both black conservative and liberals should come together, and mostly the Black African Christians should have a conversation. Then there's also another conversation about class, about haves and have-nots that needs to happen, because if we resolve racism, we still find ourselves struggling. Oh, my volume. Is that okay? So all that I've tried to say has gone down the...
No, we've had you. Maybe
God did not want people to hear about that. Let me just move on.
No, we had have-nots, if we liberals and conservatives, yes, go on.
If we resolve the conversation of class and privilege, both here in Africa and in other parts of the world, I think we can, in essence, begin to resolve segregation in other sectors. Because after we have finished with the issue of race, then we find ourselves fighting with the issue of 5% controlling 80% of resources, and then 80% struggling for 5%, 10% of resources. And that's now a bigger problem. And I think we should, that's a conversation for another day. But back to our conversation here about churches and self-regulation. I would have loved if there was some form of regulation, but I wouldn't want it to be, in as much as I've expressed my support remotely for the regulations that the government was bringing in, but I wouldn't want to give the government too much power to regulate what's happening in church, because it just takes a Pharaoh who never knew, Joseph, and that Pharaoh will use that to totally, destroy the church. However, again, when it comes to self-regulation, it makes a bit of sense, but the challenge is that who will determine the conversation of self-regulation? Because it can be easily hijacked by a certain section of the clergy, and it becomes like early times in Europe, where a certain clergy, persecuted, killed, young voices that were saying, justification is by faith. Martin Luther went through a lot of problems because there was a certain class of clergy that were collaborating with the rulers and controlling. And so it's a very dicey conversation. I'm thinking maybe for those of us who are younger leaders and rising up with budding conversations, we can begin to talk about modeling. We can begin to talk about modeling a certain way of doing church, and begin to romp in a few other friends of ours and influence them into doing church in a particular way, and then begin to build a movement that shall model a different way of doing church. And if this movement picks a critical mass, it shall begin to be a conversation in different spaces, and even the general public will see and say, look, this no man spake like him. And they heard about Jesus, they were like, hey, we've had the Pharisees and the Sadducees, but hey, this is different. And so maybe we need to talk a little bit about modeling, the few of us who can model, and hopefully that will begin to challenge, confront what some of these other leaders are doing, and offer an alternative, because they'll say, most pastors are funny, but hey, there's a pastor called Matthew, Reverend Matthew, who is different. And that can be very helpful. I think if we approach it that way, and I know there are some that are doing that, there are few, it's frustrating. We've tried to do it. I've been part of movements. I've been part of several movements that are trying to do it here in Kenya and outside the country. And it's frustrating because people are not warming up quickly, because the conversation is forcing them to first, make some difficult adjustments. But I'm encouraged that if we keep on doing it, we'll eventually build a critical mass that shall redefine Christianity and redefine church in this continent and beyond. And maybe there'll be hope for a generation down the road. But yeah, regulation, self-regulation, my worry is who will do it and who will be, subject to it. Yeah.
And let me hear what Ken has to say about this subject. Ken.
Yeah, let me just chime in and appreciate what Richard Chogo is saying. I totally
Ken, you must use a punchline.
Because if it's about self-regulation,
chime.
He has to chime in. I mean, really. Okay, go on, Ken. All right.
It's as Chogo is saying, the question that begs is, who will effectively regulate the church? And not only who, but how will it be regulated? Because if the church currently, even within the pandemic, if the church does not expeditiously argue for self-regulation by themselves, then I believe the state can develop, an appetite for regulating the churches themselves. And this is the time whereby the bodies, the bodies that purport to be speaking on behalf of the church should now begin to crack the whip and punish errant, pastors who are not doing what is expected to be done. This is the time, because if we are not careful, we might go the Rwanda way. Because the Rwanda way, they were not after the call. It was after, do you have a theological training that enables you to become a pastor? And it is, it is wrong that currently in Kenya, a majority, almost 60% of the churches in Kenya, the pastors merchandise with the gospel. People are enriching themselves. People are coming up with fake miracles. In fact, they are crying right now because the fake miracles are no longer bringing in money. The demons that were always being cast out on a daily basis are no longer manifesting. I wonder where they went. You're just wondering what is really going on. So I think this is the time whereby even the Evangelical Alliance, because I know it speaks on behalf of the Kenyan churches, they need to bring in also people who are young at heart. I don't think there's anybody who is lower than 40 in that particular team that can be able to speak on behalf of the ministers that are coming in, because there needs to be a collaboration between the two, so that when the church speaks, it accommodates all people. And by the time they're talking, to the government and representing us, they must consider that theological training is mandatory. It should not be, just something else that is talked about on the side. It should be mandatory. When we begin there, then this is the time we'll start to shelve all the errant preachers. Like now, for example, Reverend Matthew, to be very sincere, and the rest of the pastors that are here, do you know, even if you are so powerful and performing miracles everywhere, and we knew you for those miracles, if you come on Facebook right now, because of the current content, your members will clearly tell whether you have content or not. And that's the time people are going to run away from your churches, because you cannot sustain a congregation by miracles. You can only be able to sustain congregations through content. And that is what is expected. And a majority of churches, unfortunately, will close down, and there are churches that will grow. And those who currently know what the pandemic is doing for them now, this is the time to begin an online church. You can have a church without walls, online. And what you can punch in, what you can, bring in every single day is content that will build people, that will not cause people to be coerced to do certain things. But by the content that you are giving them, they'll be able to become true believers through training, through conversations like the ones you're having now. And I'm glad for this coffee, because this is a platform whereby now we as ministers can be able to speak to the world, to our country, on the things that are bedeviling this nation and what have you. And so I pray that this coffee bar will not cease even after the pandemic. We will still continue having these conversations. If KTN and NTV and Citizen cannot call us, then we will use this platform to be able to talk to the, to the people at large. But we need to begin to self-regulate as fast as we can. And I think most probably that's the reason as why the government is still not opening the church. It is not that they don't have recommendations from EAK. They got recommendations from EAK. But they still said that we are giving a task force, we are giving a team to be able to work on those recommendations so that the government can be able to make a decision. They have those recommendations. And I know they want to, punish some errant pastors and preachers. And I know that will happen before churches are open. They will try to find out what kind of a building do you have. Is it a habitable building? And this will stop, whereby people just come in with certain buildings that are not even habitable. I think there's a lot that is going to happen. But by the end of it all, let us self-regulate. Let us not, start pulling out some pastors and some preachers and what have you. If I may be kind enough, I may be like Jesus, who when he was asked, we are having the wheat and we are having the tears, can we be able to remove the tears? And the Bible says, Christ said, let them grow together. Because within some time, if you called yourself, then you will wear out. But if you are truly called by God, then you will remain. Thank you.
So this COVID-19 season is where we get to know how far the tears are going to survive. Because it's a serious business, serious stuff, right? Let me just appreciate a couple of guys that are already logging in. Dina Muli, Faith, Favor Mutiso, God bless you. Judy Kerongo, Trufena Yamo, God bless you. Watching with you. Caroline Lynn Kamau, Elizabeth Kinyua, Anna Mainga, Messi Wanzao Chola is watching. Lucy Ngendo and Lucia Soke says again, Reverend Chogo, like that idea of modeling the way of doing church in this space. Self-regulation should be initiated by the leadership of the church because they have an in-depth understanding of the structure of the church. We have Peter Mboya listening. Samuel Ngala Ashimosi Hamadi. Well, listening closely. May God raise shepherds who have a heart for their sheep. I thank God there's a remnant left. Okay. Well, guys, that's a conversation going on. I don't know. Becky, what is your take as far as, because when we began this coffee bar, there was a conversation that we did about could this be the end of celebrity preachers, those guys that walk around with 5 bodyguards. I don't know whether, David, you have a couple of them following you all over the place, and others packing guns, and now that you can only preach on Facebook, and Ken says, if you have no content, my friend, miracles are not working here. Your miracles will not help you to survive. So, Becky, what do you think? I mean, should we figure out a way now to begin to guide even if it is the genuine pastors on figuring out how can we work together, even, and maybe I can rightly put it, could it be also that the government has reason to keep on postponing and just saying, we are having a conversation, and that conversation, there is consultation. And then after consultation, then the next statement the guy says is that there will be no congregating for the next 30 days. So what's the purpose of this conversation? Kind of just playing with words here. Becky?
Just like we had, you've just reminded me that the times we discussed this, and we discussed it in depth. And when we come to regulation, I think the last time we talked, if I can just bring something back, we had said, yes, the government would want to regulate, but in my thoughts, I still want to say that we know what is right. The church knows what is right. The church knows what to do. The church knows what not to do. And if the church would be able to get into the place where they need to do what needs to be done, I don't even think there will be any need for someone else coming in to regulate. And that is why I would still stand with the word that we need to get to a place. The problem with the church, for example, in Kenya, is that we build our own kingdoms. And no one else gets to get into that kingdom and say anything. And I could continually say that we need to get to a place where Pastor Ken has just talked about the body, maybe the EAK, but I'm looking at it from the point of view that are there people that can stand straight and say, if you got to run church, this is what you will do. And if you can't do it, they have a right to say, now they have a right to give the government the mandate to close your church if you're not doing the right thing. Because we have known about these fake miracles. Not that we don't know. People who preach the true gospel know very well who is not preaching the true gospel. And if we could just come out strongly as a church and say we're not going to mix this gospel, You are either doing the right thing, and if you're not doing the right thing, you go together. But we have this body that will not do, they're not going to do it maliciously. No one will say that they're doing it because I don't have this and that, but we have a body that we just say truth is truth, and when it is not truth, it cannot continue. They have a right to talk to the government. You know, the only thing is we are waiting for the government to talk to us, and we are the ones that carry the truth. Are there people in our midst that can say this is the way to go? And when they speak, the government can listen because they will be speaking the truth. And that way we will have our people begin to do the right thing. Okay, we can seriously say COVID-19 was not the best, but in one way or another, it has taught us something. One thing, people were too much dependent on others. There were, people, there is a time people didn't think they could survive without a pastor. Let me say so. But right now, 3 months down the line, they've not had a pastor. No one has laid hands on them, unless they're laying hands on the TV. What I'm trying to think here is, it is important for people to begin to know that they can do without the men, those people that have been really getting their monies for nothing. Because there's a time you could think in every church service, you are chasing a demon. The demon that doesn't go this Sunday, it will still be there next Sunday. Now for 3 months, you are not sure where did that demon go. No one has looked for that man to tell him, in fact, you fear COVID more than you feared the demon. So one of the things that we just need to get to ourselves is learning the truth. COVID-19 has helped us to know that even those who are following fake preachers, I believe right now they know. They've listened to different people on maybe Facebook, on TV, and they can make a difference. And to also, on the same note, I don't know how many of those preachers have been looking out for their people to teach them. Maybe if they've been looking for them, is to send them the M-Pesa number so that they can continue sending the money. We need to get to a place where we can be able to say, this is the truth. Let there be a line drawn. And let there be a body, a Christian body, true body of Christ that can stand for the truth. They can give what should be done, and if that is not done, the government will have a right to say you can't continue running church here because this is not the right way. Otherwise, we will all be put into the same sack as if we are all the people that are not doing the right thing. So in order for us not to fall victims of what is not right, we need to get out and speak and get to say this one cannot continue, this one cannot continue without fear. Reason being, you know the truth. That would really be something that I'm thinking about on a serious note, that this is a moment. And maybe it will also be seen. Let me just believe that maybe the government will give us an opportunity sooner than we think to open churches. And they will give regulations. There are those people, even if they were given regulations today, they will go against them. They will not do what the government has said. That will be one of the signs. You've been told, for example, have 200 people meet. And maybe your church is 500, and we come and find you never put that social distancing. You didn't put everything that was needed. It would be a good time to say you're not ready to do it, so you can't do it. It will be another way. So there are regulations that may be given, such one, like those ones for health. But for how to preach, how to do ministry, I'm seriously thinking there should be a Christian body that knows the truth, that can be able to say, this is how church will be run in this country. And if it can't be run that way, then it can. Because if we just allow, for example, let's allow the government to regulate the church, they may give the church some things that may not even help us to preach this gospel. That would really be something I'm thinking about. But let's also just look around and say, who is doing the right thing? Who is doing the wrong thing? What should we do about those who are doing the wrong thing? Rather than everyone being put in the same place and everyone being victimized for the same thing. After COVID-19, we can be able to stand out and say, this is how church can be run. Right now, there are many things that we are writing and sending to the government. Can it be part of what we are sending? The way church should be run. And then, not just because of the sickness. No, beyond sickness, because this COVID-19 will come to an end. After COVID-19 comes to an end, people will gather again. What will determine that gathering? So this is the right time to go ahead and do it.
I hear you, Becky. David, I want to hear, I'm curious to hear what David would say about this subject. You know, David, what is your take? Is this an opportunity to really figure out how to self-regulate it? Becky and Sonia, a couple of insights. Maybe by the time we open up, maybe some of the requirements are going to be, you must be a legitimate, charge for us to allow you to reopen. David?
I think, thank you very much, Pastor Becky, for just the insights that you've shared. The challenge that we face is how do we distill who is the legitimate minister from who is the legitimate minister? And let me give a case in point. When Deliverance Church was beginning up in the 70s, we were considered, free radicals. We were a cult for a long time before we began to be accepted onto the table, where we can even be included in NCCK or EAK. Because we came up with a passion. Why am I saying this? Because every denomination has a bias. It's like the way these 4 blind people were taken to the zoo to meet an elephant for the first time, and one held the tail, one held the trunk, one held the leg, and one held the stomach. And one of them said, I saw that the elephant is like a string. The other one said the elephant is like the trunk of a tree. The other one said the elephant is like a big drum. And then the other one said the elephant is like a pipe. All of them were right, but depending on which side of the elephant they touched. And so they had to bring all their 4 definitions together for them to be able to put together what an elephant is. There is something that the Anglican sees in Scripture that the Baptist does not. There is something that the Pentecostal sees that the Anglican does not. And so the challenge of trying to regulate it like that is that some people will be knocked off because they are considered radical because of what they see in Scripture. And so finding that balance is tricky. I'll tell you a bit about the Rwanda story. Before the government stepped in to do what they did in Rwanda, they actually brought together, like you're saying, a cohort of respectable men and women of God to be able to regulate the church independently. And what happened is that the pastors decided to now start shooting down the guys they didn't like. So it was witch hunting. So it's like, hey, Chogo is doing very well in his ministry. Let me say he's one of those who is not doing well. And so Chogo's license is revoked. The next thing I say, Ken Odori has 10,000 people in his church. Me, I have only 2,000. If I close his church, I believe I can get a windfall of about 4,000 of those 10,000. And so before long, the government realized that it was no longer regulation, it was witch hunting. It was basically fighting each other. And so they took it up. And what they did is a very clinical structure. They just said, these are the requirements for you to be a church minister. You have to have an education. Now, an education may not necessarily qualify you to be a good minister. There's something about the heart that is what will make, something about the calling. They say the character, calling, and competence. Do you have the character of a minister? Do you have the calling of God over your life? And then now the competence is the third component. Have you gone to school? Do you have the papers and the credentials? Can you afford to go to school? How many of our village pastors out there in the villages will be able to afford to go to a theological school if that was to be put in place? And there's some very legitimate guys with integrity and character within them and with a call of God over their lives that have never seen even the primary school. But the grace that is over their lives has enabled them to minister. I'm not saying this to basically trash what the governments would want to do, but they will do the clinical thing. They'll say education. They will say, what kind of capacity do you need to have a congregation of 200? So that's what Rwanda did. You have to have parking space. You have to have green space. You have to have a building that is soundproof. You have to be able to have da-da-da-da-da. And so you check on those things and mark the list, period. But I can have all those things because I've been a politician and I have minted millions from it. I can build an acoustically treated hall. I can put green space with a botanical garden. I can have parking lot for 1,000 cars. But I'm going in there not to teach the gospel, but to basically siphon out of these people. And human beings, we will go where there is attraction of wealth. When the pastor says I'm wealthy, somebody said there's some messages you cannot preach. unless you have a certain amount of money in your account. The gospel just doesn't come out when you're not that wealthy. I call it unfortunately, the church in Africa or the church globally has suffered from what I call the curse of success. The biggest doing of the church today is that it's become successful, it's become visible, it's become influential. But that has also become its curse. That because it's become big and influential and powerful, we now behave like politicians as ministers. We pick who we want to come close to us. We even now pull in our children to be able to be within the close circles. It unfortunately is happening. The same thing is now one generation to another. We also do what we call, we are not leaving those seats. I will die on that seat. And we look at Mugabe and feel so bad about Mugabe. But we know that if you look at many of our organizations, the people who are in the leadership, Ken Odwori just mentioned, NCCK, EAK, if you go to those organizations, you will not find teenagers there. You will not find young adults there. You'll find old guys who have no idea where 70-80% of the continent is. Because this continent is so young, if we are going to touch this continent, we need young ministers to be able to be in those offices, to make those decisions. Speaking in Sheng, because otherwise, we'll be making policies about things we have no idea about. I always kept telling the ministers, the harvest is online, but the laborers are offline. Pray to the Lord of the bundles, so that we can go and reach the harvest. It's until COVID-19 came that ministers began to take seriously the online platform. Yet that is 90%, 70% of our population is here online. And so we need to pray that God will help us. The last thing I'll say is this. Our challenge is not so much policy. It's not so much regulation as it is a transformational gospel, a discipled congregation. Because if by my heart, by my walk with God, I am transformed, I am a renewed person, the old is gone and the new has come. My friend, please tell me, why am I struggling with finances? Why am I struggling with being honest about what the gospel says? And even if I have to teach that which will pain me at the end of the day, I will still teach it. Paul says in Acts chapter 20, he says, I have not hesitated to share with you the whole counsel of God. Everything that I could tell you, whether I'm telling you, listen, you do not need to give for you to be blessed. I will tell you. And I'll also tell you there's a side that says it is more blessed to give than to receive. I'm not telling you don't give. I'm telling you there's a counterbalance. And we fail to do that because we have not been transformed. And what the reason why the government is arguing and fighting with the church is because they don't see us as having a higher principle than them. They are seeing us like we are playing on the same league. And sometimes, and because we are supposed to be handling spiritual matters, they are upset at us because they're like us, we are politicians. We lie, we cheat, we steal, we do all these things. Leave those things to us. You be up here and teach us and rebuke us and correct us and tell us the way to heaven, so that perhaps before the end of our lives, we will have stopped these sinful, shameful ways and joined you to be disciples of Christ. So the issue, I think, that is bigger than even regulation is how we disciple, how we transform, how we renew in our hearts and in our minds.
Oh, awesome. I want to bring this, kind of just my time is running down, but I want to bring these two Britons into the picture. Guitar, you've been too quiet for long. Out where you are, some of the stuff and the stands we pull here, Odima, I mean, you cannot pull them out there. What would be your wisdom looking from the outside to this into this situation?
I'm listening. Sorry, before Guitar comes on, I'm eating. I'm just eating when I hear David talking. Pastor, my only sister, Pastor Ken and Achogo. Pastor Matthew, mine will be short because of time. Number one. The reason why there are issues right now, let me now go about in Kenya before I bring up to the Western world. As a nation, and I hope I won't get crucified in what my next statement. We have no voice in the country. If we have fathers or a father who would speak to the nation, and the children who are spiritual will listen, there are no fathers. Even now that even this COVID thing came in, if right now there's an issue in Kenya, where would the government run to? Wataita nani? Nabii waenda waongee naye? Now, I'm really sorry for bringing this.
Good question.
Who is a father today
It's
that
all
the
right.
government can call? That the State House can say, hey, we are in trouble. Nabi, come and tell us what God is saying.
Yeah.
Because the ones who are supposed to, and we can disagree to agree, the ones maybe I could call to, maybe I get handouts because of A, B, and C. So with that,
but
now,
Odima, there's a prophet from where you come from who is so powerful. We wash roads for him. The government can call that one.
Oh, come on, man! You know what I'm talking about. It's just name. Pastor Chogo is agreeing with me, and Pastor David and Ken. It's just names, but where is a father? Because right now, if we had fathers, let me know about Nigeria when we had our God rest his soul in peace. Papa Idahosa. You could not say anything in Nigeria before Papa says it. And if the government says it, it will nullify it.
Yes.
When God called him to glory, there are some that have come, but they have never had, even in Nigeria today. And now come to our country, which is Kenya. That is the problem. So when you talk about the government regulating, the Bible says, I think, it's either, I've just been thinking about, you help me, whereby it says, if there's an issue among us as spiritual people, why do we go to the hidden to come and arbitrate on things which are spiritual? Utaleta mlevi, excuse me, Lord help me, ambaye ajui Mungu amelala kwa klabu, alafu kesho tunaenda kama watu wa Mungu, ya kwamba tuonyeshe kama sisi washirika, ya kwamba tufanyaje, mtatufungulia kanisa namna gani? Come on, man. Something has gone amiss, and I'm saying this with a lot of brokenness. I am also in it. That God did help us. And there's the organizations we are mentioning, like the ECCK. Is it ECCK? I don't know what name it is. Evangelical Church of Kenya. Please tell me who is leading it. Things like the NCCK and the rest of it. Do you understand, Pastor? So this
actually, Joseph, before you even move on, let me. The two are already disagreeing whether we should be allowed to open church or not. The two bodies. The EAK and NCCK.
Okay, and the reason why they're disagreeing is because one want to be above, one want to be under. And now we look at it like Brother David is saying, and all of us are saying, who are leading it? I'm not saying that they're wrong, no. But at the end of the day, Buana, who am I under? Just like some of us were saying, who do I listen to? What voice? Whose voice do I listen to? Somebody said, the kind of a person you will be depends with who you listen to. Do you understand, Pastor? And so that is a problem number one. Number two, Ndugu, this is serious, and thank God for you, Pastor Martin, for bringing this. I believe the Lord is saying something. It may not be Odima, it could be somebody else, but I feel that it is time. It is about time now that we need to take now responsibility, we as a person. The other time I was praying, and sorry for taking a little bit of time, Pastor, but 1 minute and I'm gone. I was praying to the Lord and I said, God, raise up, raise up, raise up. The Lord told me, na wewe, wataka wengine wainuliwe na wewe je?
Your compatriot.
Yes.
He's bringing raise up.
I've reached a place right now that I don't want to blame the president anymore. I am responsible. I can be a president now. I can be the leader tomorrow. That is my calling. I can be the next senator and make a difference. I can be the next MP, make a difference. I can be the next prophet in God's house, make a difference. I can be the next pastor, make a difference. And it begins with me. We are about 6 of us here. Change begins with one. Like George Floyd, nobody with a name. The man sat on his neck. So there's some things that have sat on our neck. We are saying, hey, I can't breathe. Get off your knee, off my neck. I want to breathe.
All right, Joseph, get down. You're outside looking in. Of course, you're part of here, but let's just, you don't see this sort of stuff in Britain, do you? People drinking oil, eating grass, throwing money and stuff, and they go scot-free with it.
Pastor, here they were put in jail. One of them was trying, Pastor Getao knows about it. The BBC and the CID right now, the MI5, MI6, the Metropolitan is behind his back. They lock you in jail. If I eat church money here, if I eat church money and somebody goes to charity commission and says, Odima pastor, amekula pesa, I cannot account for £1,000, I'm going to court. Now, unajua pale, sitaongea na prosecutor or talk to the judge. No.
Hawezi toa kitu kidogo.
Toa kitu kidogo, you will go to jail.
Utakula maharagwe.
Utakula maharagwe. So, though there are some 1 or 2 or 3 things, but they'll catch up with you.
Let me hear what Gitao has to say about this, because I want to wrap this up today. Gitao.
And I remember our bishop was here some time back. A long time ago, there was an ongoing case about a very prominent Kenyan minister, and it felt as if the government here is not doing anything about the case. And I remember telling him, I can't remember whether we were in the presence of Odima, but I said they might look like they are slow, but they will still eventually...
They'll catch up with him.
They never let you... The big thing, we may live in a country where people don't go to church. But there's an acute sense of right and wrong. And especially if you're in a position of power and responsibility, they will not allow you to get away with it.
No.
They will have to face the consequences. But just very briefly, when David was speaking, he mentioned about how Deliverance Church started. And the thought came to me, which I'm going to be very controversial now. The difference, I think now, when I look at Kenya, and I'm looking at as an outsider, because I live outside, not because I'm a Deliverance Church born and bred. My father was the sort of former General Secretary of Deliverance Church for many years before Bishop.
One of the founding fathers of Deliverance Church.
Yes. And I remember when I approached him saying I wanted to go into ministry, he really struggled to release me. Because that time, Deliverance Church was not successful. There was not, it was, we used to say, Dinia Mavumbi, going into ministry is hard work. But the thing that I've noticed is this, that the thing that has made Deliverance Church successful is the Pentecostal foundation of the power and the dynamism of the Holy Spirit. Now, it seems to me, and this is where I want to be controversial, it seems to me that the traditional churches that were looking down on the Pentecostal movement 50, 60 years ago were humble enough to accept that maybe we need to allow more of the Spirit within our ministries. And if you go into Anglican, I dare even into Catholic churches, you will find them singing spiritual songs. They have adapted. But I think we have had, I would say controversially, a poor exchange, because we have shown them how to walk in the Spirit. And then what we have taken from them is structures and titles that are crippling and messing Pentecostal movements.
Which are not biblical.
So we now have the structures that they have work for them because the foundation and the source of the authority is in Rome, for instance, for the Catholic Church. The source of the authority in the Anglican Church is in the Archbishop, who there is a system of how to appoint him. There are processes and procedures of how to put those structures in place. I fear, this is where I'm saying I'm going to be controversial. I fear that we have now taken up, we've got some, within the Pentecostal movement, we've got a sense of structure that is completely not taking us anywhere as a Pentecostal movement, if I dare say that. Because we
actually, the reality could be, there isn't any, in some of the churches, there's no structure at all.
Yes.
It's free reign.
And Pastor, Pastor, let me just put that quickly as somebody outside looking in, Pastor Gitao, just to add on that. Pastor Matthew, and I love my spiritual father. I love, you know who I'm talking about. One time when I was conversing with him, we kind of asked him, and I said, Daddy, this and this and ABFC. And he told me some wisdom, some titles that some of the churches, and Pastor, I know where Pastor Gitao is coming from, that we call ourselves are not even biblical. A bishop is a pastor. Now, when we begin to come with all these kind of titles, we destroy an archbishop. Now we have got titles that even Jesus never carried.
Yes.
Why would there not be Why would the government kind of mess us up? Do you understand what I'm saying? We allow even some of these guys into our right at the altar, to do some stuff. Then we have to go down, beg them down on our knees, do for us A, B, and C. We need help.
Yeah, I hear you guys. I got to wrap it up with this.
Matthew, by saying our leadership needs to be biblically based.
Yeah.
Yes.
Leadership needs to be biblically based. Need to have structures that are biblically based. And
that's it.
Yes.
I'm struggling to see biblically based structures in a lot of Pentecostal ministries.
Yeah.
That is very, very true, Guitar. Well, guys, I wish we could continue with this conversation. In fact, I had something else that I wanted to throw into the mix, but I can't because of time. But please allow me to appreciate the guys that have been following us. Joyce Smiley Kadak was saying the wheat and the tares have been going together. This COVID-19 period would differentiate the two. I like that. One Suma Florex Maggie says correct. Anna Mainga says very true, Pastor Ken. I agree with you. The ones called by God will stand, but the ones who have called themselves will fall. An example is a man who built his house on solid ground. It was firm even when shake-up came. On sand, it fell. The foundation was weak. Once again, that one Zuma, Florex Maggie says, Reverend Becky, you are on point. And then, of course, Lois is like, all right. Well, I appreciate Boniface Mutuo joined us, Zipporah Moya, Lucy Ngendo, Arinebu Lawrence, and then, of course, Sauke said, Pastor Odima, the father and the sonship relationship is the one that will bring a voice of reason in the government. Well, born to chew on. Tabia, thank you for still tuning in. Stanley Amukoa, Georges Waweru, Faith Kimatu, Gilbert Masharia, and then one Henry that says, Pastor Matthew Wambua, this coffee bar thing is timely. We are enjoying it. Keep it going on and bring this man and the only lady, Pastor Becky Baraka, always inakuja vizuri papa. Well, that's one Henry. Masharia Morithi is watching. And then, of course, Gilbert Masharia says, great conversations. Guys, I got to wrap it up at this point. I mean, I'm sure there's a lot that we could discuss, but I want to be sensitive. My time is run off. And we still will do this next Wednesday. And I mean, you've heard that people are loving this gang here that's gathering together on Wednesdays. And guys, I am so glad, David, you could make it today. Lots of sober stuff that you're feeling right there. Please don't do a Zoom meeting on at 8 o'clock on Wednesdays. You are booked for life. Oh, guys watching us all over the world through Facebook, through YouTube, of course, and through Insta. And Richard Chogo, yes. Want to appreciate you guys. Thank you so much for tuning in. It's been a pleasure. It's been a joy to be able to have you on board. Let me remind you, coming Friday, please spare time, 8 o'clock all the way to midnight. We're going to be doing Inuka Africa Online Prayer Summit Season 2. Here is where we get to, of course, lift up some of the stuff we have been talking about here before God in prayer. And the whole of Africa is going to be watching, and we want to invite everybody to tune in. We will be transmitting through Deliverance Church Done on Facebook, Deliverance Church Done on YouTube channel, and also you can log on to www.dcdonup.org. We'll be there. Great man of God showing up. Bishop J.B. Masinde, Bishop Mwiza Mkanla, Bishop Mwiza from Zambia, Bishop Percy Kadzianike from Zimbabwe. I am talking about Nunati Sande from South Africa. And then, of course, we have Reverend Becky Baraka is going to be on board. And one Clarissa Rangana is going to be there as well. Edward Chuanuka from Uganda and Nobert Tugume from the same, Richard Chogo. I mean, it's going to be a pack of great men and women of God praying together. By the way, we will also be praying for your needs. And I ain't talking about laying hands on you and faking some miracle. We pray online, and I can assure you, if you receive a miracle online, it truly is a miracle. Blessed be the name of the Lord. And so, guys, thank you so much for being here. I want to appreciate all of you panelists. Thank you, David. Thank you, Richard. Thank you, Becky. Thank you, Odima. Thank you, Kitao. And, of course, yours truly, Ken. You've been quiet today, Ken. I think you're going to be hot and smoking next Wednesday. All right, guys. Thank you so much. Have yourselves a great night. It's been great having you here. We'll see you on Wednesday. Have a good night and God bless you.
Thank you so much.
All right.